become widely available. So these are very important, and I thank Carter's Needs because it really went into these details, and I think it covers almost all what we probably want to know. For genetic lovers, there is a possibility of neural enhancement with genes. Yes, there are existing techniques and future techniques. And since I'm also a bioethicist, well, the entire matter of embryo selection, that we select the embryo based on certain features, or maybe we don't want an embryo with features we don't like. In the future, maybe, if we will be able to tell whether the embryo will have a certain IQ or not, we could decide whether to keep that life or not. So this is a possibility. There are special genes that are responsible for better cognitive capabilities, and they can be used to increase protein production. There is already interspecies genetic engineering, and for example, if in the future I want to have an eagle's eyesight, I may use some of the genes from an eagle, and well, it works for this green gene. On the bottom left, you see a jellyfish. The jellyfish is a gene, and if the jellyfish is in a phosphorescent light, it will turn green, and you can see the little mouth has been engineered with a gene from the jellyfish. So this is green because it's under phosphorescent light and turns green. And there's also a rabbit, Alba green, on the right side. And Alba green is albino, is white, but it has a gene from the jellyfish, so it turns green. So it's very simple. Of course, it's just a color, but this has been done. Actually, it's been done that there was also a report from England that a green embryo has been produced, an embryo with this gene apparently has been produced. There is a possibility of neural enhancement with chips, and Theodore Berger from USC, University of Southern California, Los Angeles, has been studied, especially rat brain for more than 10 years. I don't know if it's doing phase 1 clinical studies. I couldn't find anything on the internet, but this is a sagittal image of the brain, an MRI image of the brain. It shows that the amygdala, the hippocampus, there are wires, green and blue. They are connected to a chip. The chip will be implanted below the skin, so outside of the skull and the brain, and basically will bypass areas of damage. Okay, this is a rat brain, and the bottom image shows a lesion, a damage in the hippocampus of the rat. And what they found, well, they sliced this rat brain to replicate the hippocampus. So they were able to basically look at the input signal and see what the output signal was going to be, and replicated the hippocampus. So the chip will bypass the area of damage. Other forms of enhancement could be those neuromodulation. We use them for pathology for patients, and electrical stimuli can be applied to the brain, and there are two types. One is invasive, is DBS, deep brain stimulation, has been used especially in Germany a lot for Parkinson's disease. There are microelectrodes implanted into the brain, certain areas, and they actually alleviate many of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. It can be used in depression, especially patients who don't respond to therapy, pain therapy, and also patients with post-coma situations has been tried. And there is TMS. TMS is a non-invasive one. It's transcranial magnetic stimulation. You can see the bottom right images, and schizophrenia, depression, but also in possibly improving our capacities. The problem with DBS, at least that I know of, is that the location of these microelectrodes may be not perfect, and so it can affect other areas of the brain. And there have been reported cases of personality changes that are difficult then to treat. TMS is similar to the MRI principles. It's electric currents that produce a magnetic field. They are applied, and at least in mechanism is not known, but it's postulated that memory and learning are enhanced by strengthening the cerebral circuitry through a process called long-term enhancement. In mice, they found that with a change in the glutamate receptors, there is also an increase apparently in the brain stem cells responsible for memory and mood. There is a recent article, quite interesting, where they used a particular form of TMS, which is transcranial direct current, TDCS, and they actually stimulated both hemispheres of normal volunteers, and they found that these people were right-handed, and they found that they improved the abilities of the non-dominant hand. Also, brain-computer interface, you probably are familiar with that. Patients with locked-in syndrome, they use it to speak, to interact with the world, but maybe in the future, this could possibly be applied. Getting to the end, and this is an article published by an Italian group, but nanotechnologies are very important, and because they can be applied to bypass spinal cord lesions. Basically, they use microscopic allocarbon cylinders, and apparently the nerve cells grab onto these cylinders, it will grow fast, and the impulse will travel very, very fast. But carbon seems to be unsafe in humans, so maybe titanium will be possibly used. Now, before I go to the philosophical part of this lecture, a few reflections about the entire issue of neuroenhancement. Well, first of all, is neuroenhancement a real necessity? Do we really need it? Or at least some forms are possibly a misguided desire. We induce desire, and then we have to take care of those. If we can actually solve the problems of safety, ethical problems, and things like that. So, do we really need it? Are human beings born with an innate predisposition to neuroenhance themselves through biotechnological means, or should they look for other forms of enhancement, possibly? If made widely available, will neuroenhancement provide us with indirect, useful information regarding our true human nature? By changing a little bit our nature, maybe we'll understand our nature, true nature, a little bit more. Who knows? What about the physicians? The physician will have to prescribe pharmaceuticals. I'm a physician. I probably won't prescribe this kind of pharmaceuticals because my job is different, but they will have the responsibility. And in general terms, would we be willing to accept a form of neuroenhancement aimed at facilitating the agent's pre-decision making? And this is the Aristotle virtue ethics, versus a form that could potentially modify it and possibly interfere with the agent's free will. But will we be able to make such a distinction in each case? Now, Aristotle, virtue ethics is quite complex. I'm not too familiar with it, but I just wanted to give a few ideas about what virtue ethics is about. Virtues are desirable characteristics with which the moral or virtuous person embodies through a continuous and pleasant exercise. It's a habit. Habit in Latin means something we wear. Okay. So the possession of these virtues is what makes us moral. Virtues are qualities, not actions. And one's actions are a mere reflection of one's inner morality. We have to become virtuous to be virtuous people. We have to learn how to be virtuous before we act virtuously. So a system of virtue ethics is only intelligible if it's theological. That means it has an aim, a finality. And the telos for the virtuous man is contemplation, which is the highest form of moral activity for Aristotle. Now, happiness or human flourishing, which is eudaimonia in Greek, and self-identity for Aristotle. For Aristotle, we cannot be happy, we cannot flourish if we are not ourselves. So there is a link between happiness or human flourishing and identity. And this is taken from Neurologic Forensics at the site Nicomacheia Ethics, this major work by Aristotle. And I want to thank a friend of mine, Professor Mercado from the Pontifical University of the Holy Cross in Rome, who's a philosopher, and he has done actually a lot of work on Aristotle. And I'd like to read this. For existence is good to the good man, and each man wishes himself what is good, while no one chooses to possess the whole world if he has first to become someone else. So the condition